Welcome, I'm David Nurse, MBA shooting coach turned life optimization coach, speaker, author, leader of all types. On this show, we bring on high performers, athletes, CEOs, entrepreneurs, people doing amazing things in this world, but they weren't always at that spot. And we talk about how they got through their stuck situation and made their pivot to achieve their success. So join me every week as we pivot and go.
I'm dreaming vivid, so I'm living my goals. Written to existence, you know I'm doing the most. I'm steady winning, having breakfast for dinner, cause I'm always giving a toast. I live that 1% of lifestyle, didn't you know? Doing what I can just to get in the zone. Incremental change will help you get in the flow. But if you hit the wall, gotta pivot and go. Switch your perspective and go for the goal. That ain't the end of the road, just pivot and go. Pivot and go.
Welcome back to the Pivot and Go podcast. This week, we get our pump on with the man, the myth himself, Adam Schafer of MIndPump. So Adam goes in depth on the episode about making a huge life pivot. He was one of the top bodybuilders literally in the world, winning shows, and he decided, you know what, that's not the life he wanted to always live, and he wanted to be someone who had impact, someone who would have positive influence on many lives. Developed MIndPump Media. So Adam is just a savant on how to obviously create your body composition, but total optimization of the mind and the body. And he's got a lot of very interesting outside the box thoughts too on mindset and the development of it. And also some really good thoughts on fathering and changing diapers, as you will hear in this podcast. So you're in for a treat. Buckle up. Adam Schafer on the Pivot and Go podcast. Here we go.
Pivot and go.
Adam Schafer, welcome to the Pivot and Go podcast. How you doing, brother?
Very good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Adam, hey, you are the MIndPump Media guru, the legend, and one of the OGs in podcast, in my opinion. So to have you on this podcast is an absolute honor and blessing, my man.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's crazy to say something like that, like think of ourselves as like OGs.
Yeah,
I still feel
we're
like we're babies in this thing. Yeah, but we've been in it a little bit longer than a lot of people that are getting in today. But I don't know. I don't know if I consider myself an OG. I feel like we're barely getting our feet wet and figuring things out after 6 years.
Well, you're continuing to pivot. And with that, start us off with a bang. What is something that maybe not everybody necessarily knows about you? Something different, off the wall, perhaps?
So I don't talk a lot about it on the podcast, unless somebody asks me like specific questions, like about my childhood, how I grew up.
Yeah.
My father committed suicide when I was 7 years old, and then my mom remarried into an abusive relationship for 13 years. And for up until I was 17, I moved out by the time I was 17 and started doing paying for school and taking care of myself early on. Before that, we moved in 9 different houses. So we bounced around a lot as far as where we were living. It was kind of like wherever my mom or dad could find a job. And so a lot of times you would, meet people and then have to uproot, go somewhere else and meet a new circle of friends. And a lot of things that probably when I was a kid going through all of it, I had a lot of animosity and bitterness because of it. Felt sorry for myself. Fast forward to being almost 40 years old. Now I look back and think that a lot of that stuff is what's forged me into who I am and built my character today. So I'm very grateful for going through all those challenges growing up, but not a lot of people know it because I don't play the poor me or feel sorry for me that I went through that stuff. I'm very, very grateful that I went through all that.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. That's an incredible adversity that you've overcame. And I know that has shaped you. Do you feel like that has driven you? Is that a motivator, a driver, maybe a chip on your shoulder type mentality that you've carried through that?
Yeah. I think early on, especially in my 20s, I definitely carried a chip. I felt like I had a lot to prove and I didn't want to go down the same path that I felt my parents went down. That's changed a bit now. I think, a lot of the motivation and drive that I have now is for the future and my wife and my kid and thinking like that. And I have a different attitude about it. I think early on, it was about other people. It was proving everybody else that I could be successful and that I wasn't going to be like this. And it took me a long time, probably all the way through my 20s until I got into my 30s to kind of come full circle that it wasn't about everybody else. And it was more about me living for me. And then also being appreciative of where I was at in my life. So a lot's changed, but the early on years, absolutely. I was the fiery young guy that had a chip on his shoulder and something to prove, which I feel like that kind of motivates a lot of people that early on, until you find out that that's kind of a deep rooted insecurity of yours that you'll have to address sooner or later.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And instead of using what happened in your past to define you, you used it to refine you. And now you're like this ultimate dad. I mean, you're going on dad podcasts. Everybody's hitting you for dad advice. So you're like the go-to, like new age, hip, cool dad.
It's funny because I waited a really long time to become a dad. Like I turned 40 this year, and I just had my son last year or a year and a half ago. And having grown up without my father, right? So he died at 7. I think I thought about that a lot growing up, and knew that when I finally would settle down and marry and have a child and stuff, that I wanted to be at a place in my life that I felt ready to take on all the challenges of parenthood. And I knew parenthood wasn't easy. I mean, I watched my mom raise 5 of us and watched all the challenges that she went through, and knew that, man, when I decide, because there was a point in my life where I thought I might not even be a dad. I had accepted at one point that if it wasn't in the cards, it wasn't in the cards. I had goals and ambition that I wanted to accomplish before I settled down and had a child. And, I remember being in my mid 30s and wondering like, oh, I don't know, maybe I won't be there anytime soon. And maybe by the time I think I might have a child, I'll be past the age where I really want to have one. So for a long time there, I didn't think I was going to have a child, but, everything unfolded the way it was supposed to. And, I met Katrina almost 10 years ago, and, she was at a place in her life where she wasn't pressing me to have a kid, or she was in no hurry herself. She had her own goals and dreams, and, it kind of just all unfolded and worked out at the right time, right when I felt like she was probably looking at her last couple of years before she would want to have a child. MIndPump had really turned and had really opened up the opportunity for me to be the dad I wanted to be, which is a father that, one, I would be successful, and my son would be able to look up to me and see the things that I had accomplished, but then also be a very present father too, because it's a very hard thing, I think, for a lot of men to try and juggle, right? Is being this provider for your family, but then also being present in his life, right? And a lot of times it's why it takes a partnership and a team in a relationship, because, someone's out there doing the 12-hour days and, working 6-7 days a week so they can provide this livelihood for their family, while maybe the other partner is really carrying a lot of the weight back at the home. And so, I've been blessed that, things turned the way they did for MIndPump when I was just starting to have Max. That has allowed me the flexibility and autonomy to be able to come and go as I please, and make sure that he's a major part of my life, and not just what I do as far as the things and why I do it, but being there. I mean, almost every day I'm home by 2:00 and spend quality time with him. And every night I'm there to tuck him in and read to him. And that stuff was really important to me, that I would be able to do that, especially coming from a childhood that I had where I didn't get that with my father. So,
dude, it's beautiful. So many great points in there. And we're going to touch on some dad tips later on here. But I love how you said present, just being present. It's not about quality time. It's just about time. And you do a great job at that, man. And I want to talk about how you got here. So we talk about making big pivots on the Pivot and Go podcast. And you were, I'll set the stage for you. I got a picture up here of you on my computer, just this jacked bodybuilder, like literally looking like a Greek god. So you go from that to what you're doing now. Like, talk us through that pivot. Talk us through the struggles, the uncertainties. How did you go from bodybuilding extraordinaire to one of the top in all of podcasting media?
Well, really, that's less of a pivot, and I've got tons of pivots in my life.
Let's pivot up, man.
Yeah. So I'll share a pivot with you, and then I'll also share that with you. Like, because really the bodybuilding thing was all part of the vision of MIndPump. Although I didn't know what MIndPump would look like, I got into competing to create a name for myself as a fitness guru, because unfortunately we live in a very superficial world, and fitness is probably one of the most superficial businesses that you can get into. And I don't care how smart you are. If you don't look the part, a lot of people aren't going to listen to what you have to say. And I know that. And I know it's an unfortunate truth, but it is. And I knew I was a good trainer. I knew I had a lot to help people with. But I also knew that I if I was going to build this big media company one day, that I would have to, get the attention of, thousands or potentially millions of eyes at one point. And so the whole competing thing was part of the ultimate vision. It was always, can I show people what I'm capable of doing on my own with no team, no coach, build this physique that goes and, wins and works my way up to the professional level, and then gets enough eyeballs and attention on me that I can then take that and pivot into the podcast where you can hear me talk and share information with my co-hosts, which, I knew I had two brilliant partners, and three, if you count Doug as producer, that we would be able to provide a tremendous amount of value for people. But I also knew that no one was going to listen to us if I couldn't first get the eyes on us. So that was all part of the vision. And I knew that pivot was coming, right? I remember to this day having a conversation with Katrina when she looked at me about, a year and a half, 2 years into competing life. And she says, is this going to be our life? And I said, hell no. Like, I do not want to be a bodybuilder for the rest of my life. Now, mind you, the reason why she asked that is because I am the type of person that once I put my mind to something, I become, very myopic, and, tunnel vision sinks in, and I'm enjoying the process. Like, you have to, if you're going to be great at it, I think you have to find love in it somehow. Yeah. And so I think she saw all that, and she thought, oh my God, is he falling in love with this lifestyle and that he wants to be that way? And I kept reminding her, like, absolutely not. This is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is part of the whole vision. And, the day that MIndPump outgrew my personal brand was the day that I changed my social media handles and I walked away from bodybuilding. And it wasn't a tough decision for me whatsoever. It was all part of the plan.
Dude, I love that. You had a vision. You had a vision further than what was just right ahead of you. And right. Seeing that, like, most people don't have that, and knowing that something bigger and better is coming, but you have to put in the legwork first or it's never going to come. And I love how you talked about the stepping stones and enjoying the process while you're at it. And like you said, man, like, if you told me to eat Cheetos and grapes and mush them together in a smoothie and that's going to make me jacked, I would listen to you and believe you, because you walked the walk. I think so. In a selfish question, Adam, is there any like sneaky tips to get as ripped and jacked as you? I mean, I know the consistency, but any like sneaky tips?
Well, and here's the truth, right? This is like, I talked about this on our podcast the other day. One of the things that I thought I was most surprised by when I got to the professional level, and even as I was working my way up the ladder, the amateur and national level, I really thought that I was going to meet like some of the most brilliant fitness minds through this whole process. Like, these are the best bodies in the world. They have to know more about training and dieting than probably anybody I'll ever meet. And so I was really excited, but I was also really let down, because what I realized that it wasn't that. They didn't have all these incredible tricks or hacks. What I did find out was these were some of the most disciplined people I'd ever met in my life. And so if you want that elite level looking physique, the biggest answer, and I know you already hit it already, which is it's the consistency thing. And I'll tell you right now, like, I've been a trainer for 20 years now, and that 3.5, 4 year stint when I was getting ready to compete and competing, I've never been in my life that consistent, never. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to be that consistent. I don't desire that today. I mean, today, I keep myself at a healthy body fat percentage that probably hovers somewhere between 10 and 15% year round. And I don't really worry about it too much. I'm mindful of when I start to get off track for a little bit, or I fall off a consistency of training. But my things that I care about today are more about my balance in my life with my family. I want to have physical abilities to be able to run and play with my son, and I want to be mobile enough to get down with him. But to obtain a physique that a lot of these young kids are aspiring to have, or what we see on magazines, that's such a selfish place to be. It really is. It takes so much sacrifice and discipline and consistency that you have to be selfish to walk around at sub 5% body fat and look like that. What's on my mind 80% of the time is, what am I eating? When am I training next? How am I going to recover for this next thing? It's just like a professional athlete in a sport. I mean, I'm sure you know this, being around pro basketball players, the greats, they eat, sleep, drink, and live basketball. Like, you're not out reading to your son. Probably you're not taking walks with your wife for an hour. You're not taking 4-day vacations where you don't play any basketball and you eat and drink. And you just don't, not if you want to be a great, And so I wanted to be great at bodybuilding, and I don't no more. I have no desire to look like that, because I know what comes with that is the sacrifice. And unfortunately, the media has portrayed that image as what health is. And that's really not what health is. Health is much more than a body fat percentage. There's a whole sphere of things that are encompassed in that. There's relationship health, there's spiritual health, there's mental health, and absolutely aesthetics is a part of that, but there's a wide range in what can constitute healthy for both men and women. And it's not the image that I presented on stage. And I'm very aware of that. And this is the type of stuff that we communicate on the podcast. And I'm not shaming anybody that wants to look like that or has a goal to do that. I think there's a lot of value in saying, hey, I want to look like this for a period of time in my life. I want to prove that I can do that. I see a tremendous amount of value of disciplining yourself, being consistent with the diet and training to get to that level, because you learn a lot about your own body in that process that you'll forever be grateful that you've obtained, because you'll know in the future. But living that way forever is not even this guy. I have no desire to do that shit.
Yeah, I'm glad that was your answer, was discipline and consistency. It wasn't some secret trick. So I love that. And speaking on that, you've created a baseline. So what you said is, hey, now you're comfortable with, you can have a dessert. You can go take a few days off. You know how to get right back on the wagon. And that's that learning process you have. And one thing about you, Adam, that stands out to me, it always has since I met you, is that you're extremely comfortable in your own skin. You have this lifestyle rhythm to you, which what I think is ultimate health, having that rhythm and the health in all areas other than just body composition. So is that something that you want to continue to portray with MIndPump Media? As I know you guys are very, high level and extremely knowledgeable in health and wellness and nutrition. But would you is that what coming next, taking it to a whole nother lifestyle of health?
I think that's something that we always knew that, even in the way we named the show, right? It wasn't muscle intelligence, right, or it wasn't, barbell something. It was MIndPump, and we did that because we knew we didn't want to, pigeonhole ourselves into this conversation just about lifting weights and nutrition, because we really believe that health is much more than just that. And there was a lot more that, one, we wanted to talk about, and two, that we wanted to explore and learn ourselves. Like, one of my favorite parts about the podcast, and why we probably will never stop doing the podcast, is the outlet that it's given me to reach out to other great people. Be able to build relationships with people like yourself, to meet people that are so far more brilliant than the average person I would ever come across. We've had a chance to, I don't know how many, in the hundreds of authors that are New York Times bestsellers that I've got to sit down in a room and bend their ear and ask them any question that I want. Because of that, I think we all equally love that part of the business, the growth aspect that comes with it. I think no matter how successful MIndPump becomes, or no matter how many pivots that we do within the company, I think we'll forever podcast for those reasons. But as far as like with the business, like, there's a lot of different things that excite me that are like nothing related to the podcast at all that we're doing. My goal with the business is I want to be at a place where we could walk away from it completely, and everybody is, and so we're only doing it purely because it's something that we love to do. And, we've done that. We've done a really good job of building a very solid foundation. We have many streams of income that come in because of it. Now, much of it started because of the podcast, but a lot of it has nothing to do with the podcast anymore. And what excites me is building all those up and getting them to a place where they take very little management from all of us. And I've been able to employ others and give them jobs and livelihoods to keep the ball rolling. And that excites me. I get really excited about what it's created for other people. Like it's one thing to create success in your own life. It's another thing to be able to help others find that and become a medium for them. And that's kind of like the stuff that really gets me all jazzed today. Like I love having a staff. I love building a team. I love watching them grow and develop parts of the business. Like that's probably what gets me up in the morning every day.
Man, I love that answer. It's a servant mentality with legacy, with true legacy base. And here's what I want from you guys. I want you to have a TV show. Like I want to be able to put on Netflix or something. I see the MIndPump series. Because right now I'm watching The Bachelorette and all this Temptation Island stuff with my wife, which, okay, but I want the MIndPump. Because you guys are, one, very knowledgeable, but two, I think you're hilarious. With the stuff you bring, it's really, really funny. And it's valuable.
Have you seen, are you a fan of The Office? Have you ever watched The Office?
Are you kidding me? Yes, like all timer.
Okay, so then you'll appreciate this then. So we just started this maybe a month and a half ago or so. So there's only, I think, 3 or 4 episodes that are out. You can find them on our YouTube, on the MIndPump TV channel. But we're doing like I wouldn't call it a vlog because it's more like The Office. So we record a behind the scenes, all of us, and we've shot it and we create it the same way like The Office does. So when we hang up, I'll send over a couple episodes and you can check it out and tell me what you think. But that's actually a passion project for Justin. Like Justin really is the creative side, creative and tech side of our business. And him and Eli are working a lot on that. Like, we're doing it too to also help with our brands. I don't know if you've been paying attention to, like Justin just dropped the Paleo Valley commercial. Mm-hmm. He did a Magic Spoon commercial. He's done, what else? Oh, Z-Biotic. We've done a handful of commercials for our partners, but we're doing them like storytelling and with more comedy involved in them. And so we're practicing with them and then within behind the scenes with some of the stuff that we're creating for our business. But that's a potential whole nother revenue stream that we hope to get into, where companies not only pay for advertising for the podcast and the show, which that's obviously a major revenue stream for us, but then we'll start to contract us out for specific skits for their brand that they can use. Like, for example, that Paleo Valley, we provided that for them. They now use that to market and advertise on Facebook and YouTube. And so one, we can get paid for another thing that we can do for partners. And then in addition to that, it's exposure for the business. And so that's another thing that we're working on right now. That's really exciting.
Adam, that's awesome. And Paleo Valley is a sponsor of this podcast. Check it out. Pivot 15 if you want 15% off. Awesome company. So giving them the shout out, but that's really cool. And that's thinking outside the box, continuing to create, always learning. You guys are learning addicts, basically. And that's all built by the culture that you guys have built, this foundation. It didn't just start like you can do all these things. Like you built the roots and then you grew these seeds that you planted are growing into these trees with different branches. Was there something at the start that you guys just decided, okay, this is our mission statement. This is our culture. This is what it's going to be, like the Golden State Warriors, your favorite team, the culture that they've built.
Yeah. So I love culture talk. And instead of boring you with like all the I think the basic jargon that you see in most people when they talk about their non-negotiables and their, what's it called? Your KPIs and things like that. The stuff that, and this goes right into your Pivot and Go book, right? So probably one of the most pivotal moments of my life. Yeah. Plug, right? So one of the most pivotal moments of my life was probably back in, this was 2006 or 7-ish. And at this time I'd already been like a manager for like 5 or 6 years. And I read a book called 1 Minute Manager. Are you familiar with this book?
I am. Yep.
So it's a day read. And I tell everybody that's in leadership and management that you should absolutely read this book because it completely changed the way I led teams going forward and how I would build cultures. And the short version of the very short book is, instead of like what most managers and people do when they're leading a team of people is, your employee messes up, they do something wrong, you correct them, you teach them the right way, and pretty much how I had been taught to lead my team forever. Instead of doing that, you flip it on its head and you focus on all the things that they do right. And I remember after I read this book, it was a really compelling story, the way they wrote it. And I thought, okay, how can I apply this to my team and then also measure it to see, is it really working? So what I did was I set alarms in my phone for all of my staff. So, and they don't know this, right? So only I know this. And let's say, David works for me, and, Rachel and Susan and Mike. And so their name would come up on my phone, which back then was like the Palm Trio or whatever, right? So dating myself a little bit there. And alarm would come up and it would say, David. And that was my reminder of to go find David somewhere on my floor, walk over, put my hand on your shoulder, wow, and point out something that you did right or really well that I had seen you do, ideally sometime recent in that day or in the recent past that I just saw you do, and just let you know. And it was literally that fast. I'd walk over and say, hey, Dave, I noticed the way that you greet your clients every time they come into the gym. I just want to tell you, man, I love that you go above and beyond like that. And you're really special. And I appreciate everything that you do. And then walk away. And that's all I would do. And I started to do this every day. I had multiple trainers. I had a staff of about 20. Every day I had multiple trainers that I'd have to go over and do this with. And it wasn't until about a month and a half later was I able to measure, is this really working? Now, mind you, the team was doing well. I had a successful team anyway, so it's hard to say, oh, did it go up by 5% or whatever? But when I knew it was really working was when I had this kid, Anthony. He walked into my office. It was about a month and a half later. And he walks in and he just starts vomiting out all this information about what he's not doing well as a trainer and how he can be better. And I know I didn't get my files done here, and I'm going to do this at this time. And he just starts telling me all this stuff that he wasn't doing well. And it had dawned on me that in the past week, I had got busy, something had happened, and I had missed my time of walking over and telling him what a great job he was doing. And all it took was that 7-day stretch of him used to and consistently hearing Adam come over and telling him what a great job he was. I just didn't make it over to him because I was busy. I didn't think he was doing a bad job at all. I didn't think he was doing anything wrong, but it weighed on him so much that he came to me to tell me all the things that he wasn't doing right and how he wanted to fix it, which opened the door for me as the leader to then coach him up on the things that I could help him with or that he should be doing differently. And it's such a different, and being in a leadership position, anybody who's in there knows that, it's really tough to get somebody to want to do what you want them to do. They have to be at that place where they want to receive that. You can't just force that down the throat. Otherwise, you're just managing and leading out of fear, and that's fleeting. Eventually, that'll run out, or you'll run them out. And so when you get people to want to learn or want to listen or want to hear from you, it's far more powerful. And that taught me that after doing that with my staff. And so that has been a culture shift for me in all of the staffs and teams that I've had over the decades that I've been in fitness. And so I think about that with the team that I have today. So we have about 15 different people that work for the company. I've trained myself well enough that I don't have to have a reminder that alarm goes off. But you better believe that if I have somebody who's done something wrong and I have skipped out on making sure that I let them know all the things they're doing right, I won't address that until I've done that, because I know that if I do those things, that when those times do come where I've got to correct something, the way they receive it, and many times I don't even have to come after them about it. They come to me because they know they fucked up, because they haven't heard Adam come over and tell them what a great job they're doing, or they feel guilty because I've been telling them what a great job they're doing and they know they're not doing a good job. Such a powerful short read and paradigm shift for myself as a leader. And I forever will never forget that book. I share that story anytime I talk about, one of the most pivotal times for me as a leader was, and when I talk about culture, building a culture around that, and then also teaching your other leaders within your team to do the same thing, is to always start with that. And I've taken that steps further on exercises, right? So I have this exercise where you have all these value cards. There's a 52 deck of value cards of, love, family, friends, money, success, all these different values. And I make my staff narrow it down to 5 and then 3, right? So I first say, get rid of all the ones that are, even if they are values to you, but I want the 5 most important values to you. And then I say, narrow it down to 3. Once I have that 3, it's something that I keep for myself as a leader, and then eventually share with my other leaders within the business. And anytime I have to sit down and have a conversation, good or bad, with a team member, I always want to lead with asking them about one of those 3 things.
Nice.
And because that's what's important to them. And just because this is my business and I need them to do job X, Y, and Z, if that's all I'm speaking to all the time, I'm just going to get this robot, and I'm not going to get somebody who's passionate and cares about us and the team and going above and beyond for me. But if I show that person that I care, right? Like, and one of my favorite quotes, right? If people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so if I lead with that attitude of truly caring about my staff and the things that they value and care about first, and always talk to them that way first, then it's a lot easier to have the hard conversations and the crucial conversations that will inevitably follow later.
Man, that is the epitome of leadership, and you understanding that it's not about giving a man a fish, teaching him how to fish. Great leaders don't want to always lead. They want to lead others to lead others. So yeah, man, that encouragement, genuine encouragement with true appreciation for people is that's the new space leadership. I don't know why more people don't do it, but that's why you guys have built this phenomenal culture at MIndPump. So as you guys know, I am a huge health and optimization nut. One of the biggest staples in my life has been adding in Paleo Valley. I travel a lot all the time. So to have healthy, nutrient-dense snacks like the Paleo Valley grass-fed, grass-finished beef stick, literally I smash about 3 in a minute. The beef sticks, they have essential C complex, for joint and recovery, the turmeric complex, the neuro effect to have my mind on laser focus. And the people at Paleo Valley, the amazing people, are giving us a code, PIVOT15, for 15% off anything you want. There's also super greens, bone broth protein, so much goodness, so much health. So enter the code below, PIVOT15 at paleovalley.com. Again, that is PIVOT15. Get your super special pricing discounts and get your health on. Oh, you know that feeling you get when you just wake up and you are not rested or recharged? Yeah, we all have it. We all go through it. How do I wake up with full energy every single day? It is literally the game changer itself, Chili Sleep. I have an Ooler that goes underneath my mattress and cools my body temperature to the ideal temperature to get deep sleep. REM, high HRV scores. Now I have mine pretty cold, about 57 degrees. The optimal level is between 57 and 65 degrees. I have a weighted blanket, which just cools my body, and I'm just sleeping in restorative sleep. So when I wake up in the morning, no matter how many hours I get, I am juiced up and ready to go. And lucky for you, you can wake up the same way. The people at Chili Sleep are giving you a discount, giving you a code. So go to chilitechnology.com/pages/David Nurse to get your special discount pricing there. Remember, that is chilitechnology.com/pages/David Nurse, or just click the link below and it'll take you right there. It's sleep like a polar bear tonight. You can get the best night's sleep of your life. Chili Sleep. Man, I could talk to you all day on this. I could talk to you all day on a lot of different things. I mean, changing diapers I wanted to get to, but respecting your time, I'm going to throw you on the rapid fire hot seat. So whatever comes to your mind, you can spit it out. And you just said one of these right now, but I'm going to start you off with, do you have a favorite mindset quote? And it can be the same one. It can be a different one. Maybe something that's on your fridge, on your bathroom mirror, a go-to mindset quote.
How you do anything is how you do everything.
I love it. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Okay, what is leaving a legacy to you? Not necessarily what's on a billboard that everybody sees, but what is leaving a legacy to you, Adam?
Leaving a legacy for me is the man that my son will become.
Love it.
So the way I lead my life, and I think will directly impact his, good or bad. And so the man that he grows up to be, I think is my legacy.
Yep, man. 2 great answers right there. Here's a fun one for you. This one could get interesting with you. I'm excited to see the answer on this. If you can pick three people to come to a dinner party, dead or alive, who are you bringing for conversation purposes, and what are you cooking / Uber Eatsing?
Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley. Elon Musk. And I'm making chicken salad because I want to save room for dessert.
Okay, what's dessert then?
Probably an ice cream cake.
Okay.
I'm a big ice cream guy for sure.
I love it. Me too.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a can of Zevia. We both are huge.
My
Zevia
buddy,
nuts.
my buddy got an opportunity. I hopefully you appreciate the Charles Barkley answer because
Totally.
my buddy has actually caddied for him before and says that he's every bit the personality that you see on TV and just one of the realest dudes. And I love people like that. Like you, I've been around a lot of famous athletes and people, and not all of them are what they put themselves out to be like on TV and radio and everything. And I love real people. I love people. You are what you see. And I hear Charles Barkley is that way. And I just think that he would make a great dynamic for that for that table.
Yeah, see, Charles, he's a guy who I think should have a TV show, and I'd watch anything he does because he's real, man. He's real, comfortable in his own skin, and that's, like I said, why I respect the heck out of you, man. Because you don't get caught up worrying about what other people think. You know, you can fully, truly be yourself, and at the core, man, everybody wants to have that. It's tough for most people to get. But you being that light, they can see. You know, it's a leadership. It's a role model. That's what you are. So, man, how can we all follow you, MIndPump? How can we support you in any way possible?
So I guess probably the best thing that you can do to help MIndPump, myself, the team right now, is to go out and support Sal. So Sal just released his book, right? So he was published by Hachette and finished Resistance Training Revolution. And it's on pre-sale right now. And then I think it gets released next month. So that's a big deal for us, like to get a big push, for him to do well in that. I would love that. So, and then don't buy anything from me. I say, go check out all of our free content. I mean, we have 1,500 plus episodes on every platform that podcasts can be on. You can find us. We have 2 huge free MIndPump channels. We have a landing page dedicated to all of our free content, mindpumpfree.com. Go take advantage of all the free stuff that we have out there and the advice, and learn from us as much as we can. And then if and only then, I would say, start with one of the programs that you think best suits you.
I love it. And Sal was on the podcast. He did a phenomenal job, and I've ordered his book. I know it's going to be great. And one thing with you too. What's that? You guys
already went? I didn't know you guys already went.
Yeah, we went. Yeah, we went a while ago. Before we were in this amazing studio, as you are our first guest in this high-level studio. You on Instagram, your question and answer days. I look forward to those. You get a lot of people asking you questions. You have great responses. So check Adam out on Instagram.
I have a lot of fun with those.
I could tell, man. Hey, so the final question I have for you on the Pivot and Go podcast, if you could give one piece of advice, a drop the mic piece of advice to a kid or somebody who's feeling stuck in their situation and just can't seem to get out, how do they make that Steph Curry Golden State Warriors pivot and go out of there?
Man, a short story comes to mind for that answer. When I was 22 years old, I met someone who would later on become one of my best friends, Mark Baker, who was the GM at the gym that I was running. I was the fitness manager, so I was running a team of personal trainers. At that time, I was the youngest fitness manager in the company, right? And I had a staff of about 15 at this time, and it's like my second or third month in, and we finished at like 115% of goal. So I'm pumped, I'm stoked, like just really getting started in this position and having success. And my boss is coming down to see me the next day, and I'm excited to see him because he's, the district manager's coming down, see his top performing club. He's going to come down and tell me how great I am. I'm excited. And he gets there and he actually doesn't do that. He goes through all my files and my paperwork. And this is an area that's always been a weakness of mine. Like I'm terrible sometimes with time management. I'm not the most organized person that you'll ever meet. I got sticky pad notes, stuff all over the place. I need Katrina to remind me where I need to be in the next hour all the time. Like I can be terrible with all that stuff. And he really got into me about all this stuff. And, I'm not the type of kid who's going to go, oh, poor me, or get angry that he didn't tell me how great I was because we did 115% a goal. I took it on the chin. And the very next day I was at my desk all day long, making all kinds of files, all organized and systems in place. And Mark Baker, the GM and my later on best friend, comes back there and he sees me. It's about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, which is what we call prime time in the gym. And I'm wrapping up a lot of this stuff. And I got my desk with all these tiers and everything all organized out. And he walks over to me and he goes, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Oh, boss came by yesterday and he told me I need to work on this. I need to do this, this." And he looked at me, kind of shook his head, and he cleared off the whole desk. He threw it all on the floor. And I looked at him. I was so angry when he did that. He says, "Listen," he says, "you're in this position at this age for a reason. Stop focusing on the things that you're not good at. Focus on what you're already good at and be fucking great." And that advice still to this day gives me goosebumps when I remember, because it forever changed the trajectory of my business mind, my leadership style, everything who I am as a fitness leader today came from that advice. I stopped worrying about all the stuff that I wasn't good at. And I looked at the things that I was good at, and I doubled and tripled down on that and became great at a few things. And those few things is what's carried me into success later on in life.
Adam, drop the mic on that one. I can't even come with anything to follow that up. That is gold. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time and coming on the Pivot and Go podcast. You are a wealth of knowledge, a light and inspiration to me, man. And we're going to get together soon because I'm going to have some dad questions for you. I need to know that how quickly you change diapers, what your record is.
I like it, dude. I appreciate it. Always a good time talking to you, man.
Adam.
Love you, dude.
Pivot and go.